I got divorced ages ago, and honestly, I can barely remember why. After my marriage fell apart, I threw myself into work, climbed my way up to a management role, and even invested in a few friends' businesses along the way. Over the years, I managed to save up enough for an apartment and finally bought the car I'd always dreamed of. I didn't waste money on unnecessary stuff, just kept moving forward, focused on my goals. And when it came to the car, I took extra good care of it, knowing how hard I'd worked to get there. That's why, a couple of times a week, I'd swing by a car wash my buddy had recommended, and that's where everything changed. The car wash had this little cafe where drivers would hang out while waiting for their cars. The first time I went in, my eyes landed on the bar, and there she was, a short, bubbly girl with an infectious laugh, standing behind the register. She wasn't really my type, but from that moment, I couldn't get her out of my head. At first, I wasn't even thinking about anything serious, but this sweet, lively soul quickly changed my perspective. I remember wishing I'd ordered a coffee when I first talked to her. I was so nervous, like a kid on his first date. She noticed and, without a word, brought me a cup of coffee and a little pastry, gave a playful wink, and flashed that bright smile. I felt like I was walking on air. Even when she was deep in thought, or had a rare sad moment, she had this magnetic pull. You could see even the toughest, most worn-out guys who stopped by trying to hide a smile when they heard her laugh. I didn't have much downtime, but from that day on, I made time for Camilla. I'd send flowers through couriers while I was at work, and at night, we'd text each other the most random things. One evening, I suggested we go for a drive after her shift, or maybe just grab a bite somewhere. "Wow, what kind of car is this?" she asked, genuinely surprised as she climbed in, her laughter filling the car. I would have done anything to keep hearing that laugh. I didn't mind going all out for her. I paid attention to the little things she mentioned, like how her phone was acting up, or how she needed to go grocery shopping because she was out of everything. She never asked for a thing, but that only made me more eager to surprise her. I'd show up with bags of groceries or essentials she casually mentioned needing, from laundry detergent to food for the fridge. No, things never went beyond kisses, but even that had me on cloud nine. Before long, those tiny hands were holding a gift, a brand new phone. I wasn't in any rush. I liked the way things were developing between us. Slow, steady, no pressure. She was just a simple girl with a simple job. No demands, no complaints about how much time I spent at work. And honestly, I found her so interesting that I couldn't stand being away from her. Then one day I brought my car in for a wash and headed to the cafe. I knew Camilla wasn't working that day, but I still ordered a coffee and sank into the couch. There was a guy sitting nearby, reeking of expensive cologne. I pulled out my phone to take a work call, and the screensaver was my favorite photo. My neighbor caught a glimpse and practically jumped in his seat. "Excuse me, do you know Camilla? Who is she to you?" he asked, leaving me stunned. "That's my fiancée," I replied, taken aback. "You know her too? What a surprise." The guy just smirked. "How long have you two been together?" he asked, not missing a beat. I gave a little grin. "A few months now." "Well, this is interesting. She's my girlfriend too." We ended up sitting there, talking for what felt like forever. His name was Dylan, and it turned out we had met her in the exact same way. He'd been driving her around at night and staying over at her place too. The only difference, his visits didn't happen during her shifts. Apparently, she told him management frowned upon personal relationships at work, so he just went straight to her house. He mentioned that her washing machine had broken down about a week ago, so he bought her a new one. And just days before, I'd been driving her around in my car, and she loved every minute of it, especially when she first checked it out. Suddenly, her first words about my car came rushing back, and that familiar sting of betrayal hit hard. As we kept talking, both of us were relieved things hadn't gone any further with her. The next day, I called my Camilla and suggested we meet up. As we sat in the car, I took her hands and told her I had an amazing surprise for her. I had bought 2 tickets to Turkey. I said she should take a 2-week vacation, go home, and pack her bags. She was over the moon. "Look, I'll be tied up closing some things at work over the next 2 days," I said. "So hurry and get everything ready. Be at the airport by 6 a.m. I'll be there, but I'm completely out of cash. I'll call you a taxi and cover it," I promised, and the next morning, around 5:30, I made good on that. When Camilla texted me, excited about the trip, I called a taxi to take her to the airport. She loaded up her heavy suitcase and was off. My phone started buzzing non-stop from 6 in the morning, but I switched it to silent and cozied up under a warm blanket to catch up on sleep. I never saw Camilla again, and as for Dylan and me, we parted on good terms. I stopped going to that car wash, though. I switched to another branch in a different part of town. And you know what? I don't feel even a little guilty. Want to know why? 2 weeks after all of this, she found herself a new guy. Someone who came by to wash his car and grab a cup of coffee, just like we had.